and welcome back to HCS Weekly. I thought, yo, this is my life. I have to go pro in Halo.
In my head, thought that was more efficient, and I guess I was right.
He was like the god. We would have to 2v1 like just to beat this guy. Like
I don't know, man. I don't reach in. You're like, oh, let's see you guys later.
A lot of Halo in my life, man. It's been a fun journey.
I love it. Hello and welcome back to HCS Weekly, your weekly destination for all things HCS. I'm your host, ShyWay, and yes, we got more news, we got more trick jumps, we got yet another interview. And today's episode is a very interesting one as well. I know I say it every single week, but we always take a different jump into a different area of Halo, and I'm excited to talk about Halo CE for this episode. We got an expert in Halo CE coming on, McDick, in just a little bit, who runs the BeachLAN. But before we get there, we've got our news, we've got our trick jump, we've got our giveaway as well. Remember, type !grassroots in the chat. You get a chance to win the BR skin and nameplate. We give away one every single week, guys. So if you miss it this week, you can come back next week for your chance to win. Just type !grassroots in the chat. Let's get right into our news with MattyRums from NewCombo.com. What's up, Matty?
Hey, dude, what's going on?
Not much, man. We've got more news, yet another week. And this time you've actually got a lot of news. Like, I was just doing a quick scroll through, and I'm like, damn, there's a lot of topics here. So take me through it. I'm going to be learning vicariously through you here because I haven't checked it out yet. But we always kick it off with the MCC playlist updates. So what do we got for our updates this week?
Yeah, it's a real small one. It only affects Halo 2 Anniversary and Halo CE. On Halo 2 Anniversary, they moved the map called Epic to 4v4 Fiesta. And then they also added Epic and two new Forge maps called Oracle and Checkmate. They added to the 2v2 Slayer and Oddball.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I posted a few pictures up on this site, but I haven't played them myself. But I'm guessing they're pretty good since they chose them. But then for Halo CE doubles, they changed the map weighting. So for Chill Out, Hang 'em High, and Prisoner, they increased it. And Rat Race and Battle Creek, they decreased it. So you shouldn't be seeing those last two as much.
Okay. So you see the stuff that you want to see. I'm assuming the most popular ones are the ones that are going to come up the most often, which is always a good change. And of course, we have legendary maps and game type migration reminder. This is still happening. Remember?
Yeah, so they finally, I think it was last week, they announced the dates that's going to be happening. So the first date is August 12th at 10 a.m. Central Time. That's when your game types will be copied over. The second one will be August 26th at 10 a.m. Central Time, and that's when all your maps will be copied over. So what they suggest doing now is log into Halo 3-4 Reach through either backcompat or your 360 and load up all your game types first. Leave them for 24 hours, they said, after August 12th. And then after that, you can go back, delete that all from your file share, upload all your maps, and then have that ready for August 26th.
Right. Just to preface it real quick, I know we've been talking about this last 2 weeks, guys. If you're just coming in on this now, just note that there is an opportunity for you to port your old maps from the classic Halo title. So from Halo 3, you can port all your favorite maps and game types over to the MCC PC version. And I think there's a specific criteria. You have to log in on an Xbox or something at one point, right? Yeah,
well, after the transfer takes place, when the games are released on PC, then the games will be available for you to play once you log in to MCC through an Xbox.
Okay.
So it'll get transferred to Xbox and PC, but you have to log in through Xbox.
Right. Okay. So yeah, you might need to log in on a friend's Xbox if you don't own an Xbox. Right. But from there, it's a pretty simple process. You can, collect the most anything that you have in your file share essentially is what's going to be on MCC PC. So really great initiative. There's so many amazing maps and game types, and we don't have to recreate them all now. Now we can just jump onto the game, and they're right there to play, which is awesome. We also have UGC announcing the Halo 3 FFA at Halo Classic. So many amazing just side events coming up at Halo Classic. They talked about Halo 5 2v2. We've got the Halo 3 $1,000 prize pool FFA as well. I mean, what do you think, Matty?
I'm excited. Everyone was asking for it on Twitter and everything. So I guess it was only a matter of the time before they go ahead and deliver it like they usually do. Mm-hmm. It's like you said, it's $1,000 prize. It's $50 per player. And that gets you 3-day access to the event and tournament entry.
Right. even just to list off everything they have so far, which is pretty amazing. There's the Halo 3 4v4, there's the Halo CE 2v2, a Halo 5 2v2, and now a Halo 3 FFA. So many different reasons to come to this event and get excited about it. If you're a Halo fan of almost any Halo title, you're going to get an opportunity to play or to watch some pretty awesome games. We also have a venue change as well, and I heard that the venue is an upgrade, not a downgrade. What do we got here?
Yeah. So previously, Halo Classic in Atlantic City was going to be at Bally's Hotel and Casino. Now it's at the Adrian Phillips Ballroom Boardwalk Hall. It's from what we're told, it's bigger. I know most recently they had the Collegiate Star League Grand Finals there, where they played, CS:GO, League of Legends. So,
awesome.
I'm guessing it's I guess reputable, if that's the right word.
Right. They're accustomed to having events in the location. It's not just completely new.
Exactly. Yeah. And then for anyone that's concerned about just the distance change, if they book their hotel already, it's not even a 10-minute walk from where the original venue was. You just go right outside to the boardwalk and walk down, not even 10 minutes, and you'll be there.
Yeah, I was going to say, the first thing I thought is, what about people who book their hotel in the venue? Are they going to be screwed over now? But that looks like that's going to be okay. Hopefully you guys are okay with a less than 10-minute walk is what they're saying. So, yeah, that seems pretty reasonable. UGC announces Halo Classic Masters Status Initiative as well. What's this?
Yeah, so they just announced this, was it today or yesterday? But for teams competing in the qualifiers, the top 8 teams at the end of all the qualifiers will receive a 4-night stay with 2 hotel rooms for each team from September 5th to September 8th. They'll get admittance into the championship pool of the Halo 3 4v4. They'll be invited for Media Day on September 5th, where they'll be filming some stuff to show on the stream, and also get VIP accommodations like a tour of Atlantic City and stuff like that.
I was going to say, what does VIP treatment mean?
I know they get catering and
okay.
stuff like that.
Back rubs. Actually for gamers, massaging in the forearms, that would be super helpful. Just,
I don't know about all that. But you have to be available for Media Day in order to receive this. So if you do win the qualifiers, plan your trip to be there on the 5th.
Right. And I mean, the planning's kind of done for you if you win it, if they're going to do the hotel rooms and everything. So it sounds like a pretty good bargain. Just win those qualifiers, guys. We do need some good incentive to get in those qualifiers as well. And I know they're starting to heat up as also you've got some tournament results here. Just to make sure I didn't skip over anything, I think.
No, you're good.
We've got it. Yeah. So you have the Face It Ignite online qualifier playoff. So this is going back to Face It. This is going to happen right before we get into our Halo Classic. We still got another massive event in Europe.
Yeah, so over the weekend, there was the EU and the NA region playoffs. Yep. For the EU region, there was no first place or second place. I messed up with my graphic because found out that they never played the finals because the top 2 receives their trip paid for. But first place was Moses a Clown, which is Hollers, Respectful, Mose, and Snipe Drone. And then the other top 2 was Mazer Gaming, which is Flames, Havoc, Fusion's NR, and So Snaky. Mm-hmm. And then 3rd and 4th was Aspire with Jimbo, 2 Foxy, Riots, and Flux, and a team called Back to Classic, which is Sandal, Evie, Jobst, I don't know, and Lil Sandel.
Yeah. Once again, just credit to you for even going through all the names. Some of them are always hard to read. Interesting kind of breakdown here because, of course, being somebody who doesn't know the European scene too well, a name like Jimbo, 2 Foxy, Riots, these guys are popping out at me, but they're in 3rd right now, right? You still got those Respectful, and those are amazing players too. Snipe Drone, who guys watch out for single Halo clips tomorrow. Snipe Drone might be in the single Halo clips. He's got a crazy play that you can check out. So all of these guys, incredibly talented. It's interesting seeing even Jimbo, who we know is a champion in the European scene, 3rd place right now. So a lot of competition even within EU. It's going to be really cool once they move over to this venue. We've also got the NA side of it too. What do we have here?
Yeah, so in this event, the first place team receives their trip paid for over to Face It Ignite, and that went to Tox Gaming. Surprise, surprise. Snakebite, Lethal, APG, and Royal 2. 2nd place was Gooder, which was Trippy, Snipe Down, Penguin, and Eco. And then 3rd and 4th was Falling Esports with Neighbor, Ace, Ryan Noob, and Goofy. And $5 Nug, which was Demon D, Straight Sick, Aries, and Shelly.
Nice to see some of these team rosters a little different than what you might have expected from the last event, like Snipe Down with Trippy, Penguin, and Eco. That's a hell of a squad, and I guess that's instead of Reciprocity. I guess that means the Reciprocity won't be making it in its full form. And then Falling Esports, who previously had Frosty and Eco. In turn, they're getting Rynoob and Goofy instead. There's two exceptional players as well, so we'll see how that kind of stacks up. But some interesting team changes right before we get into the event. SWAT Nation continues to host some amazing events as well online. What do they got?
Yeah, they held their first ever Halo 3 2v2 SWAT tournament called Once Upon a SWAT. First place was Mask On, which was Shotzi and Falcated. The second place was Ahaha, which was Sweet Bunny and Heaven. Third was On Another Level, which was Smoke You Dig and Sucka. And fourth was Cruise with Toy Soldier and Royal Blood.
Right. And I guess no Bound in this one, but I know Bound.
Yeah, it was a little shock. Yeah,
maybe he's a Halo 5.
Guy.
Yeah, he didn't jump over to H3 there. It's nice to see Shotzi come in for an event and just take the event once again. But good to have some big names there. And of course, Smoke You Dig and Sucka, they've been grinding the SWAT Nation tournaments for a while. They've been pretty exceptional, so they're still going to place high. We have upcoming tournaments, of course, as well. What do we got?
Yeah, so Saturday's pretty busy. If you're in the EU region, there's the UGL Halo 3 4v4. If you're competing at Halo Classic, you have the first qualifier for that.
Nice.
You also have Halo Wars Tournament Central, Halo Wars 2 Open 2v2, if that's your game.
Sure.
And then you also have the Microsoft Store Halo 5 Free-for-All at local Microsoft stores in North America.
Back by popular demand. It's nice to see that come back as well. I know they just announced it last week, but guys, you can play Halo 5 in Microsoft stores. Once again, they're having events there. And like we just said about Halo Classic, you've got, your first qualifier coming up, your first opportunity to get a shot at those hotel rooms and VIP treatment. We also have a Sunday's event as well.
Yes, and then on Sunday, August 4th, in the EU region, you have Europa Halo's second Double Down, which is awesome. The Halo 5 2v2.
Awesome. So actually a pretty stacked weekend for, things going on in Halo, a lot to check out, be a part of, and of course watch on twitch.tv. But that covers our news this week, guys. Remember, all of this information is available on noobcombo.com. Matty runs it. He's got all of this organized in an organized fashion. You can go check that out. And that closes the news for today. Matty, thank you so much for joining me.
Anytime, man.
No problem, dude. All right, let's get right into our trick jump with ClearlyMe. Apparently he's got this sand trap clip that totally blew up on the internet. We got to talk about it. How's it going, Clearly?
It's going pretty good, man. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. I feel like you must be doing a little bit better after your how many likes do you have on that tweet right now, that sand trap clip? Pretty good for a Halo post.
About 1,800 and 19,000 views and counting.
Yeah, is that the best you've received for
so far? Yeah, so far on Twitter, it's done pretty good.
That's incredible. Yeah. I think we better check it out. I hope you got it.
I do. Yeah, it's gonna be the first clip we're rolling today.
Okay.
But you crouch on this fusion coil and you smack it, and doing so will launch you higher than if you were to just shoot it.
Okay.
And you crouch repeatedly into the lift, which is referred to as a lift manipulation. In doing so, you can actually get past the little barrier through the lift and sit on the bottom of it. And if you jump, you will catch the lift like you see right there.
Right.
And you'll pop right back out, which is it's actually pretty cool that you can still do that, because if you want to try to get a clip trying to backsmack somebody out of this thing, that'd be incredible.
Yeah, you totally could, right? Like they would try to jump at you, and I'm thinking an infection or something as well. They're trying to get at you.
Oh, yeah.
And they just keep going up the lift. How difficult would you say it is to pull this off? Because, I mean, it looks kind of effortless in its, the way it's displayed here, but you got to control your momentum in the air and fall into the exact right place, I'm assuming. How is it to pull it off?
You do have to center yourself a bit down the middle, but the lift tends to help you with that. So once you clear that hole that's on top of that little, I guess you call it base, whatever, the lift tends to center you, so you don't really have to focus too much on that.
Okay.
But the fusion coil part is going to be the hardest part, because you do have to walk slowly backwards before you smack it. If you run backwards and smack it, it tends to shoot you more horizontally, so you don't have that downward angle on it, which you need. You need as much height as possible to manipulate that lift as much as possible.
Right.
So that part's a little tricky, but once you get that down, I mean, I get it consistently about 8 out of 10 times.
Okay.
Yeah.
So kind of pay attention to how you're hitting that fusion coil. You want to be backing up a bit the moment that you hit it, so you can direct your flight there. And apparently you posted it on YouTube, and you've got some pro players who are interested in potentially trying it out. Who was that in your comments?
Nate had said that he was going to attempt it, I guess. Yeah.
Oh my God! All right, so we'll have to see if he does that. And I know Nate plays everything Halo, whether it's competitive or casual mode. So you could expect him on Sand Trap at some point. Maybe he'll have an opportunity to pull that off. I think that would lead to a pretty exciting.
Yeah, that'd be sick. That'd be sick.
Yeah, and of course I know you've always got your high level trick jumps every week as well. Do you have one of those also? We can check that one out.
I do. Yeah, I have a clip on Blackout today. Extremely useful. And as you can see here, I'm kind of playing with the enemy's radar a bit. And I'm doing this little bit that gets you from S1 to S2. Okay. And you'll see it right here. Boom.
Nice.
And sneak up on them. Don't expect it at all for the quick double there. And I show a third person of it as well. And it's extremely simple. I mean, you can't even really mess it up. You just simply walk into this wall and just mash the jump button, and you'll get it every single time.
All right.
But yeah, you just walk into the corner, keep mashing, and I show myself doing it over and over again just to demonstrate the consistency.
At what point are you mashing? Like the moment that you press jump, like now you're mashing, or like once you hit the floor, you're mashing, or it's just...
right as soon as you first jump from holding forward up against that wall, you just continue to mash after. And eventually you'll just jump again. And you kind of crouch and curve up to S2, and you get it every single time. I mean, I've yet to fail this in matchmaking. It's that consistent. So, and I don't see anybody utilizing this at all. Everybody knows the way on BR Tower where you can jump on top of that invisible barrier,
right?
But no one ever utilizes that side, which I feel like they should. And I use it to my advantage all the time in matchmaking, and I feel like more people should.
Well, I mean, now you've showcased it, so more people might, and maybe you can look out for it in the future. We'll see what happens there. Of course, anybody who's watching, you should probably steal some of these jumps and apply them to your gameplay as well. If you want to be involved with the trick jump community, I know you've got a community for that as well, Clearly.
Yes, sir. I created a Discord server completely dedicated to trick jumping, so anybody who wants to learn how to do any of the things that I'm doing today, you can reach out to me directly through there. Also, there's a lot of other OG players who do just the same as me and are willing to help. So feel free to join. I will link the link to that on Twitch and on Mixer after my segment is over. Also, find me at MCC Trick Jumps on Twitter, also on YouTube if you want to see more content like this. This is all that I do. So if you like what you see today, feel free to follow me.
All right. Well, thank you once again. Clearly, we had 2 awesome trick jumps this week, and I'm only expecting more from you onward into the future. Looking forward to seeing what you have in store, man. I'll see you around.
I'll see you, man. Thank you.
And that closes our news and our trick jump for the week. Let's get into our Halo CE discussion. I'm excited to welcome Mick Dick, the host of BeachLAN, to HCS Weekly.
Thank you for having me.
No problem, man. Happy to have you. I noticed when you came in just before we got into the interview, you're dressed all nice. You're in a nice looking building here, and I'm wearing this basic green T-shirt. What's going on? Are you at work right now? How's it going?
I just wanted to show you up. Make sure.
That's not, I gotta change my shirt, dude.
I'm at the office. I'm an attorney here in Tampa, and it's downtown Tampa behind me. I don't know how well you can see it there in the zoomed in picture, but I'm a personal injury attorney in Tampa, and caught me after work.
Yeah, it looks nice. I've got a bigger view on my screen, so there's a little box that you guys, the viewers, get, and then I've got this other. I see you twice for some reason. It's just a weird Skype layout, but I've got the full background there. It looks very nice there. And I know that you've got, BeachLAN that you're running. Of course, you said you're an attorney, so that's keeping most of your time. How much does BeachLAN kind of take away from that? Do you spend doing events and whatnot?
Well, I'm very lucky in that there's a lot of kids in the community that help out. So,
nice.
I'm kind of like a manager to some extent, but I largely just delegate stuff to the more capable folks who can do the things that I can't do. So, Devil Man is another guy that helps me out a lot, and he does so much for us. But I got a guy doing graphics. Sandman, who's been on your show, is going to come and do photography for us. And I'm more to sort of pull the strings and put the right people in the right spots.
Right.
Most of the year I don't have to do too much organizational stuff, but as it comes closer to the event, I'm, staying up late and, working on stuff.
I hear they call you the warden of Halo CE. Is that part of the reason why, or is that strictly because of gameplay?
So there's a map called Prisoner, and so they call in that, and that's my best map. So they call me the warden because of that sort of jail theme.
All right. That's awesome. When I heard it, I thought they were talking about like Warden Eternal, like some sort of a Halo lore reference or something, but I'm pretty sure that didn't even come until later, like Halo 5. So
I'd never even heard of that. Yeah.
You never, yeah, exactly. And I mean, we're talking all about Halo CE today, so I'm going to learn a ton. I don't know too much when it comes to competitive Halo CE. Like, unfortunately, I missed the boat on this, and just doing all this research now, I'm just floored by the unbelievable amount of stuff in the game. Like, it's pretty incredible. So we got a lot to learn. If you guys are a Halo CE fan, some of this stuff you might know all of it, and if you're not, you might learn a lot today too, which is great. Now, typically when I start these conversations, I go and I cherry pick my way through your Twitter, and I find funny stuff on Twitter. It turns out you don't have a Twitter. Is that true?
Yeah, that is true. I only recently created a Twitter really for BeachLAN, and I mean, I don't. People message me and they might go months without getting a response because I don't really. I'm just not that into Twitter. I'm a Facebook guy, but yeah, I don't have a personal Twitter, and I really don't use my BeachLAN Twitter much.
Stay away from the social media, but it does seem like it's going to become like a good aspect for BeachLAN going forward, considering the HCS grassroots partnership. Hopefully the community continues to grow, and then Twitter might become a good part of that. But unfortunate, because I wanted to cherry pick my way through your Twitter and find funny stuff.
Yeah, sorry there wasn't history for you to sift through. But no, even with what little time I've been on Twitter, I've been able to connect with some people that I think are going to be able to help us and contribute and be a part of what we're doing. So. I'm definitely going to have to start spending a little more time on Twitter.
So, just as far as what you're up to today, though, you're the host of the BeachLAN. It's the home of the largest 2v2 Halo CE tournaments in the world, and you're also not too shabby at the game yourself. You're known as the warden of Halo CE, defeating Legend and Skills in the last BeachLAN 2v2 apparently as well, who are known as the most dominant Halo CE duo right now. But where did it all begin? How did you first get into Halo?
So back when Halo first came out, I was in high school, and my soccer team would get together and play after school but before games. And I was by no means a natural. I was terrible, and they wouldn't even let me play. I had to kind of sit out, and I would just sort of hang around and call them nerds, and I really wasn't even that interested in the game. But just by chance, one of my buddies was giving me a haircut, and he was shaving my head. And as a joke, he had left a patch of hair on the back, sort of unshaved. And so on my way home, I realized, oh shit, he's got me here. So I went back to his house, made him fix my hair. But he had his Xbox all sort of neatly packed up by the door. I said, all right, I'm borrowing your Xbox, sort of, as a punishment for trying to.
Interesting.
And I played the campaign, and he let me borrow his Xbox for a month or two, and I was just hooked. And so from that point on, I would play with all of my friends, and I was just better than everyone, and I just played it ever since. So I was pretty bad in retrospect, obviously, just with my locals. But, in college, I started, I got hooked up with some, Bar Tommy, and Bar Optimo, to a lesser extent, a kid named Bar Sleeper. And so they were sort of, much better than I was. I learned a lot from these guys. And then Gintron, who obviously was, one of the best Halo 1 players ever. One of my good high school friends was friends with him in college. So when we would come back and get together, on winter breaks and things like that, I would learn a lot from him as well.
Awesome.
So just sort of sheer chance really got me into playing this game that I've been playing for almost 2 decades now.
Right. So at first glance, it didn't go too well. It wasn't really your thing. But then when you finally got your hands on the console, everything started to click. You said you turned out you're pretty good, I guess, in comparison to the locals.
Right. Yeah. So once I played spent a lot of time playing the campaign, I pretty much surpassed, all my good friends.
Nice. Nice.
Kept going and kept climbing, kept meeting new people.
Yeah. And then in college, you're meeting some of the much better players. You're learning a lot throughout this process. When's that happening? Like, what year would you say about is this all going down?
Yeah, so I mean, I was pretty bad for a pretty good while. I mean, when the MLGs, Halo 1 was really in its heyday, I was terrible and, just sort of learning the basics. But so my first Halo 1 tournament would have been in Kansas, and, probably about the time, I think about the time Halo 3 was about to come out.
Okay.
Sort of even after Halo 2. I want to say about 2007. Is that sort of lined up with the dates?
That would be right when Halo holiday 2007 would be the release. Yeah.
Right. So that would have been my first tournament. Was sort of late in the game.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome. So, I mean, you're being, introduced to this whole new world, and that's what's going to happen for me today too when I kind of learn about this game. So, when did this kind of transition? So, you started, I guess, competing. This is your first event. Did this become like a series of subsequent events that followed? And then, how does that kind of transition into what you're doing today, which is you're hosting this awesome LAN?
Yeah, so there really hasn't been a lot of tournaments since then. So in 2000, roughly 2007, there was that event in Kansas, and it was a 4v4, 2v2, and free for all event. I think I finished top 16 in the free for all, and the rest of my teams, I don't quite remember how they how we finished. It wasn't like a a top 8 or anything like that. But it was more just sort of like realizing, oh man, there's there's a lot of really skilled players out there, and so then. After that, there really wasn't tournaments per se. It was more like just LAN events. Right. And so we had a little community in Tallahassee where I went to school at Florida State. I think the only other tournament that happened after that would have been Maryland Madness, hosted by Burns. But I was playing football at the time, and so I had like spring, practice or something, and I couldn't. Right. Go to that Halo 1 tournament. But other than that, it's pretty much just been, big LANs. So Devilman out of Virginia Beach, who is basically like a co-host of the BeachLAN at this point. I mean, he does so much for the event. But he was hosting the big events back then. And so, I was literally driving from Florida up to Virginia Beach to go to his events, and met a lot of the best Halo 1 players that were there. And then at an event in Colorado, it was being hosted by Doughboy and Shay Pun. Those are just Halo 1 guys that I'm sure you don't know, but they're sort of big names in the Halo 1 community. But somebody suggested, hey, you should host, you should have a LAN down in Florida, and it'd be really neat because you have the beach and all that, and Florida being a peninsula with oceans all around, we sort of take it for granted. But this Colorado kid, it was actually Bible Man for those who are in the Halo community. He was sort of suggesting you should have this LAN. And so short while later, I basically did just that. Devilman sort of helped me get sorted out on the equipment I would need. And it was sort of the concept that it was then is very different than what it was now. So the first BeachLAN, sort of the concept was to just have sort of just the premier elite players, just sort of a top 25 invite only, not very welcoming, not very, trying to new players there.
Like the LAN house, what's it called? LAN network, where it's all the best players competing against each other, and that kind of similar kind of ideal.
You may refer to things at times to like Halo 3 and Halo 4, and I won't. In the same way, you don't know about Halo 1.
Oh, you don't know about the LAN network?
Those things. But yeah, I mean, even in the first year of BeachLAN, where I had this initial concept of it being sort of invite only and being, just the very top players, it really fell apart sort of right away. So before I even gotten out, most of my invitations, people who hadn't been invited were like, "Hey, can I come?" And so, I didn't want to be, a jerk and turn people away. So, we just sort of made it sort of anyone can come, even in the first year. And then it sort of just has grown and snowballed ever since. For the next two or 3 years, up until BeachLAN 3, it was just a week-long free play event. And so people might play for money or play, sort of, for pride, but there wasn't a sort of tournament in any way. But at BeachLAN 4, there's a Halo player named Teapot, and he had never even been to a BeachLAN. He was just sort of like a fan, hadn't really come to events or anything. And he just gave me $500, just PayPal me $500 and said, hey, here's some money, host a tournament for the next BeachLAN.
Nice.
And so, we've been doing a tournament every year, and Teapot's played a big part of that. But the tournament gets the most sort of attention and whatnot, and I think that's kind of why we do it to give a little drama, to make it interesting for viewers. But I think personally, I just want to play. Just want to play with new people and have a good time.
Yeah, I assume you don't really go into this trying to make a whole ton of money. It's more so you're just passionate about the game and the community, and you want that to continue. When you say BeachLAN, you're literally on a beach? Like, how does that work? What's this venue like?
Yeah, so it's literally a house that is on the beach. And so you walk out the back porch and you're on a beach.
Sick.
There was I think it was BeachLAN 5.5. So another player, Colin P, had he rented the same house and sort of so we call it a 5.5 because it was between 5 and 6. So he had sort of a second BeachLAN that year. And there was a player who was just like, sort of on the last day of this week-long event, was like, holy shit, the beach is right outside. I didn't know. But it's literally on the beach.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Is it's a gaming event, so they're not coming. They're just in a dark room the entire time. There's there's a world outside. There's a beach. Right. Yeah, it would be cool if you found some way to integrate the beach. Like if you had like a big screen, like a window or something, they could look out and see the life they could have if they. No, I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, so I mean, on the first day we should move all the furniture out of this sort of vacation house and then black out all the windows and it's
okay.
Sort of a cave.
Right.
No glare on the TVs.
Yeah, okay, I get that. And you're playing on CRT televisions too. This is like Super Smash Bros. Melee. This is the one that I always compare it to because I'm a big Melee fan. But you're still playing on the classic equipment. That's like the optimal way to play, I'm assuming?
Yeah, there's a sort of subtle exception to that, but I mean basically when you play that old our old game on new equipment, there's a lag from I guess it's some sort of conversion of the analog to digital signal from, and I'm repeating words that I hear nerds. I don't hear nerds these things, but there's these very rare monitors that you can get that are kind of like these old computer monitors, but they're CRT, so they actually have really high quality that look like a flat screen monitor, but they don't have the lag.
Interesting.
But by and large, we're playing on old tube TVs from like 2004.
Yeah, it's the one man's trash is another man's treasure type thing where you literally will take them off the lawn. And for me, it's the Sony Trinitron for Smash. It's the same reason for Smash Melee. There's a lag time, input lag. You press a button, the amount of time it takes for the action to happen on screen, that screws you up in competitive games. You can't have that. So the Trinitron is like the holy grail. I can't grab it, but I got it right behind me. I found it like just streets away. It was like a few kilometers away, let's say. You're in the U.S., so I don't know what that converts to in miles. But anyway, I found it on the street, perfect condition. And I was like, screw it, I'm carrying this home. And I'm carrying like a 50-pound TV the entire way home, like busting out my back. But I don't care because this thing it looks mint. Like it's a Trinitron. I need it. I don't know if you've had a similar experience.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, there's many parallels between us and the Smash community. So Smash Melee came out in 2001, same as Halo. Right. We use a lot of the same equipment. They've done a lot of testing and figuring out sort of ideal models and things like that. So we've kind of learned a lot from them. We also want to get where they are, as far as having a big community. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when I was coming up in say high school, for example, when these games came out, I never heard of Smash Melee. I'd never heard of it. No one I knew played it, but it seemed like every single person was playing Halo, and had heard of Halo, and even if they weren't good, they played it and enjoyed it. And so to see how big the Smash community still is, I think there's a lot of opportunity for the Halo 1 community to continue to grow and to, get to that point where we're bringing back all these players that, used to have a passion for the game, but for whatever reason sort of, fell out of touch with it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. If a game is exceptional enough and it brings the hype, then the community builds regardless of what iteration comes after that, right? And Smash Melee is kind of its own anomaly. It's crazy. They're very lucky in that the game kind of holds up visually though too. It still looks beautiful today, even though it came out in 2001. And Halo CE looks great too, but I wonder if it would struggle kind of comparing it up against modern shooting titles the way that they look. Even though you do have Counter-Strike, just top of the world, it's not the most beautiful game, but it does receive quite a few graphical updates and whatnot too. But yeah, I think if the game, the potential is always there, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about too, because what I'm curious to know is that, so Halo CE, it shares a special place in all of our hearts. If you're a Halo fan, Halo CE is important to you. But for you guys at the BeachLAN, it's a totally different story. Halo CE is the Halo title. You're grinding it on a regular basis, or some of you guys are, I'm assuming. So let's talk about what makes that competitive Halo CE so special and so unique, because there's way more depth in this game than most people are aware of. And I found some cool tricks online. And I'm sure there are probably more of them, and I'm sure you can fill in any gaps of my knowledge, anything I might say wrong or whatever. But let's take a look at what we've got here. So we got some tricks and mechanics. The first one is this double melee trick where you can cancel your melee with nades. And there should be a video clip for that we can play in the background. And tell me a bit about this. I don't know if you use it on people much or how effective it is. Let's see. So that's the camo. You can make it disappear if you shoot it. There it is. Okay. Yeah, tell me about this.
Where did you get this video?
This is off YouTube, and I don't know. maybe it's like outdated now.
No, it's fine. I was just curious.
Can you stop yourself from throwing those nades, by the way, or do you have to throw the nades when you do the cancel?
So basically, what you're doing is you're meleeing, and then you're throwing a grenade, and then it allows you to melee much quicker. So you can almost melee, back to back, as opposed to, if you meleeed, you'd have to wait, a full second before you could do it again. But when you mix in a nade between them, you can basically hit somebody almost, twice at once.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of it's very basic. I mean, everybody does it, pretty regularly.
Yeah.
That's, plays at a high level. And most people, I mean, if you're playing Halo 1 still, you're by and large playing at a pretty high level.
Mm-hmm.
Some players are better than others. I mean, I think even in the other Halos, you have the phenomenon of clawing. And so in Halo 1, when you're playing sort of standard settings and you go to melee, you're taking your right thumb and you're putting it on the B button.
Right.
Now you're no longer able to look on your right joystick. So most people that are good they don't just claw the whole time. They sort of switch claw to double melee, so they able to switch where they're hitting the thumb, hitting the button with a different finger than normal, so that they can look and melee at the same time.
Yeah, kind of. Some people do like a semi-claw where they only move their index finger over there when they need to, and they kind of just rest it above. If not, as far as this double melee thing, so as far as what I know about Halo, it looks like you're canceling the melee animation with a nade, and the melee animation also cancels your nade throw as well. So they're just kind of canceling out each other, and you can nade twice in quick succession. Is it possible to not throw a nade, by the way, or do you always have to?
Yeah, I mean, the benefit of it is you're getting to melee quicker. Okay,
right.
You still throw the nade. You actually do
still have to commit to the
nade. You can't do it if you don't have a grenade.
Exactly.
And you have to be wary of, is the nade going to hit you? If you're in a corner and you're trying to double melee somebody, or you're hitting someone in the back, you don't want to hurt yourself with the nade. So you have to kind of make sure it makes sense in the context of where the game. But there's some other things like you mentioned, and I think they showed it in the video. There's a quick camo hack basically where if you shoot certain guns after getting camo, you can go camo quicker. Or if you even shoot it, even a weapon like the pistol that doesn't help you quick camo, but you switch to a quick camo weapon like a shotgun or an assault rifle, that you switch to camo much instantaneously rather than the full second and a half or whatever that it normally takes.
Yeah. I actually do have a clip for that one as well. First, what we're going to look at is the reload glitch. If you can show the second timestamp, John. So the reload glitch allows you to reload your weapons while they're holstered, and it's going to be shown off right after this. So this one's actually really cool.
Yeah, so this is another one that's, very standard and common to players that are still playing the game. But basically, you just hit reload twice, and then you can switch weapons. And so they call it backpack reload. So your gun is reloading without you having to be without a gun. So, you get into a battle, you shoot all your bullets, this guy won't die. Instead of just sitting there helpless and reloading your weapon, you switch to your other weapon, and you can use a gun while your other gun is reloading in your backpack.
Right, that's sick. I love stuff like that. So yeah, that's a perfect example of like an animation cancel, but then it continues onwards. I guess when it's on your back. The other one that you said was the firing a shot after picking up camo. That's actually the next timestamp that I have here too. So apparently, if you fire a shot, I didn't know it was weapon specific, but the assault rifle is one that works. You fire one shot after you pick it up, it activates or applies it faster. Tell me a bit about that. And then you can also grab those weapons above too. You crouch jump and you can pull them out from above you on the platform.
Yeah, like I said, it's very common. I mean, probably the most common way to do it is to shoot your pistol, which is not a quick camo weapon. But you get the camo, you shoot your pistol. But if you switch to your AR, then it works the same way. Mm-hmm. The same thing happens if, for example, you have camo and you get someone lights you up and they shoot you. You can shoot your quick camo weapon and go back camo quicker than if you just waited for it to come back on its own. This person here is doing some really basic nade tricks. I have some videos that are out there on YouTube. I'd encourage people to go look at those if they want to learn some more nade tricks. He was also, if you go back, I don't know how easy it is, but he was doing what I guess most people call a Zyos jump. I don't know if
that right
there. So that's not a typical way that you're supposed to climb up, but you can kind of take a shortcut if you kind of shimmy up the wall right there.
Right.
I don't know if he popularized it or came up with it or what, but it's pretty common. Most top tier players can sort of do that at will, and kind of keep the enemy guessing if they're in up and over shield on prisoner.
Now, the biggest thing as far as like just insane kind of technique like this right here, it's the nade launching, right? Like everything that you can do with grenades in this game just seems unbelievable. You can throw them way farther from what I can tell to other Halo titles, and they give you these perfect, like if you throw it in the right spot, you get this perfect launch. And the rest of this video is going to pretty much just be that. And I'm sure you know all of this stuff.
This is sort of rudimentary video, no offense, but that's one of the differences between Halo 1 and the other Halos. So I remember when I started playing Halo 2, I always got the impression that my Master Chief was like shot putting the nades, like they were just so heavy and he didn't really have like the range that I was used to. So in Halo 1, it's super easy to just look up and launch a nade, and then there's all these opportunities to blow yourself weapons and to blow yourself power-ups. And on a lot of maps, I mean, if you don't know basic nade tricks, you're going to be it's not just sort of like this quirky, gimmick. It's like you have to know how to blow camo down on Damnation or you will lose the map. You know what I mean? Right. It's very, standard that everyone and optimal. So if you're not doing those, you're going to be at an extreme disadvantage. I'm actually kind of known for doing nade tricks. So before I'd met a lot of other players that I could play with, and I was really traveling for LANs, I didn't have much else to do but practice nade tricks. So I, learned all these little gimmicky things, and I probably do more than most people do in an average game. But there are some tricks that are just so basic that if you don't do it, you're kind of screwed.
Absolutely.
But it's interesting because if I'm not mistaken, the Halo 1 sort of multiplayer was sort of put together in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. Last minute.
Sort of like this afterthought.
Yeah.
There's all these just perfect lines where you can look and sort of line up these different nades to stuff. So it's not like you're, feeling it out or, it's real difficult. It's like you look at this line and then you look at that line and you put your reticle tangent and you can, throw your nade, and it's pretty straightforward stuff for the most part.
That's crazy because there's no way any of that's intentional. It just so happens that like you can, like this right here is you're lining it up with the Yeah, like
I mean, so he's putting it between. Anyway, he's blowing the sniper to top blue, and that's another one of these like very standard plays. I mean, if you went to the BeachLAN, I would guess.
Right. I should have got one of your videos, is what I'm realizing right now. I'm looking at some basic launches. It was more so, I don't know what level everybody is in the chat. So for people who haven't seen it, some of this stuff is like, whoa, this is pretty wild. But I'm sure, like, even this one you probably do on a regular basis or whatever. So
yeah, so like that base, for example, red base on Hingham is sort of not a great place to be, but all of a sudden you blow a snipe over there and you've kind of flipped,
right,
and all of a sudden you're not in such a bad spot. You're in a very powerful place.
Mm.
I have a video on Hingham where I do. It's not like a montage. I literally do all of the standard tricks and more in one continuous clip.
Nice.
So none of them, no errors essentially. But that's a pretty. I think it's called McDick's Hingham Nades is what I called it. But
okay,
it's a pretty good one, I think, for that map.
So it's something good to grab, definitely. And that's the thing, is it's just the level of optimization in this game is kind of incredible. Do you know anybody who has like kind of everything completely optimized down? Are the top players all doing all this stuff regularly, no problem? Is there stuff that still has yet to be optimized that people haven't quite figured out? Like, where are they at with that?
Yeah, I think that a lot of the best players are doing more gimmicky stuff and doing these nade tricks. Legend, who is, currently I would say our best player. He's always grenading snipe. He's so good with the snipe.
Right.
He'll kind of, for example, on Hingham High, he'll concede the camo because he'd rather be blowing snipe rather than having a pistol battle. He'll just get the camo and he's blowing snipe, and you're happy to get the camo, but it's not going to work out well in the long run for you because he's so good with it.
Damn. So all of this stuff, of course, is pretty amazing. I'm sure back in the day, only the hardcores really knew about the existence and were starting to implement it. But the Halo as a franchise kind of continued to move on regardless. And some of these unique, interesting aspects were kind of lost in the process. And that's something I guess you've realized when you tried playing Halo 2 and 3. You'd given me some notes before the interview about the different titles and kind of your experience with them. It'd be cool if we kind of talk about it on what you thought. You have so much detail here. I'm literally just going to take out the Word document right now and kind of go over some of it. But for Halo 2, so you had pre-ordered it, but you never ended up picking them up. What happened with the transition from C to Halo 2?
Well, it just wasn't. I just didn't enjoy it. I'd played it. I don't remember if I had seen it played or if I had played it or if I played. I know there was like I don't know if you recall, but there was some sort of like beta, like a French beta that was released that people were playing. Okay. But I just didn't like it. It just seemed like the sniping was so much easier and no longer, like it seems like what they've done in each successive Halo is just make it more and more easy for everyone to shoot well. So in Halo 1, there was a real skill gap there with the top players being able to outshoot lesser players. And someone could be shooting you in your back in Halo 1 and you can turn around and strafe and outshoot them and win, whereas Halo 2 and Halo 3, it seems like everyone can shoot so well that if someone's kind of shooting you in the back, you just run away, and there's really an opportunity to turn around and clutch it.
Right. Interesting.
So I played a little Halo 2, Halo 3, even a little Reach, but none of those games were ever felt like they were in the same realm as Halo 1, where there was a huge skill gap.
Damn, it's really interesting hearing that, because it's crazy how you can draw parallels with that, and like somebody who's a hardcore Halo 3 guy and says like Halo 3 is the best no matter what, and everything after that was just complete trash and it's too easy or whatever. You see like a similar argument for fans of every individual Halo game. Like Halo C is like, this is the pinnacle of Halo. Halo 2 even doesn't stand up to it, or a Halo 2 guy who says nothing else stands up to Halo 2. So it's kind of crazy to see just I think everything, regardless, except for maybe Halo 4, I feel like you could make a good argument for the skill and the depth of these games, but they end up being very different. Like, it's different things that make them so incredible. Like with Halo 1, it's all about that nade launching and the spawns as well, which is something I skipped too. The spawn manipulation is very specific, which we can go back and talk about too. But then in Halo 2, it's got its own stuff as well. It's got the button combos, right? So you said like if in a scenario that somebody gets a shot in your back, You might have to run away from that because everybody can shoot really well in Halo 2. But at some point, people figured out that you can actually make an outplay if you're good enough at, doing a double shot with the BR or BXR in a very specific scenario, whatever it is. And then Halo 3 has its own things as well. So like you tried Halo 3, and I know like the power-ups was one of the big things you didn't like, right? Or the energy drain and the stuff that you can throw forward.
Yeah, so just to address for that, like, so in Halo 1, the way this, in real general terms, you spawn in a certain sort of radius of your partner. If you have a partner who's on the map. And so, but at the same time, if your partner, for example, goes to where there is no spawns near him, then you get a random spawn. And so that randomizing is an advantage generally because the other team, doesn't know where you're going to spawn. So, for example, it's a really common strategy in Halo 1 to have a person who's alive, but instead of on the enemy team, but instead of killing him, you let him spawn his partner and you kill his partner. You hide from him and kill his partner. So in Halo 1, you can force randoms by standing in places where you're blocking the only available spawn. So you go and stand in the spawn, and then that randomizes your partner spawn. Right. And so instead of the enemy being able to sort of move freely throughout the map because they know where you are and your partner's going to spawn with you, they realize, oh, you're giving a random out, so I have to basically post up and be concerned about where he might spawn. Yeah. So that spawn system really creates a lot of interesting, sort of chess. Certain places where you can intentionally run towards the enemy because they'll choke some of the spawns that are available too, and then sort of force a random that way. Sort of knowing when to random, when not to random. How to account for the other team randoming. That's a big part of Halo 1.
We actually. Sorry. No, I was just going to say we have a related video we can throw up in the background while we talk about this as well. Just play it with no audio, John, if you don't mind. It's just the basics while she's going through the basics of kind of how the spawn system works. And yeah, you're right. Like it means that you're required to have intimate knowledge of every single spawn on every map and exactly where you need to stand to block them. And on top of the fact that on forcing random spawns is one thing, but you can also force a top spawn like above if you block that one team spawn, right? So like while she shows it in the video, we can throw it up. On Hang 'em High, if you stand at a certain spot, you're going to spawn your teammate above you, and you can, kind of manipulate the game in that way too.
Yeah, that's all very common stuff that I should have mentioned.
Right.
There's, on a bunch of maps in general terms, you can spawn down, and if you were to step off of that spawn, then your partner would spawn down too. But if you stay on the spawn and block that spawn, then you can spawn your partner at a higher level, which is generally superior. So, a ton of maps have that feature. And then, you have to know when to do that and when not to do that. So sometimes spawning your partner up isn't a good idea if, for example, the other team is up there looking at that spawn.
Screw them over. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'd say the spawn system in Halo 1 is, even players at a high level, there's a lot that they don't know and a lot to be but that's one of the really neat things that we've done in Halo 1, because that is such a steep learning curve to not only have to know all the spawns, but know all the random spawns and know how all those things influence each other. So in one of the most recent modded versions of Halo that we have a practice mode. And so the practice mode actually highlights on the map all the places that are random spawns. So if you go stand on any of those basically darkened spots, those would be random spawns where if you go stand on them, it'll block, give your partner a random. It also has all of the spawns on the map indicated, and there's nav points for power-ups and rockets. And so it's really easy for new players to play at a high level, and it makes it much more easier for even good players to play new maps, because we have a bunch of community generated maps that people, even good players, who still haven't quite learned.
Right. So it's called Halo 1 NHE, and we had the trailer come up right before the show. If you guys got a chance to spot that, maybe there's a chance we can throw it up in the back once again. But NHE is interesting. It's a modded version of Halo 1. And how do you play it exactly? How does it work?
Well, it's there's a number of issues with Halo 1. So, the biggest problem that we've kind of had is sort of aging hardware. Okay.
Right.
So, up until 2013, we were kind of playing on just original Xboxes and, playing off a disc, and so one of the first, so for example, when we were at HCS Daytona, they invited us to bring a, state equipment out there and have a little, retro station, they called it. And they were going to supply the boxes. And so they brought 4 boxes, and I think 3 of the 4 didn't work at all.
Oh, no.
And so, we had our own boxes because we anticipated this.
Right.
The disk drives wear out, the CDs get scratched, and it's just very impractical to use that type of stuff, in the long term. So in September of 2013, we created, I say we, I had, nothing to do with it. I think a Halo player named DDS is mainly, is doo-doo shit. That's his terrible Halo
Sweet name.
We call him DDS. But
Okay.
we basically got
Here's an HE.
disc. We also had a map pack, and then so that same that very first modded version of Halo had a bunch of the new maps that had been created.
Wow.
And then like the next year in 2014, he released what was dubbed. So the first one was called Halo 1.5, and then they released LAN edition. So when you play on LAN, there's all these telltale noises throughout the map where if you pick up a certain weapon and you're playing on LAN, the other team is basically in the same room.
There it is right here.
They can hear. Yep. So that's a great timeline on kind of what I'm looking at over here.
Yeah.
And so, they removed all these noises. So when you're playing on LAN, the other team can't hear you pick up camo, for example, or pick up rockets and know exactly where you are and what you're doing. And then the sort of optimistically named Halo Final, I think that was more a reflection of DDS getting tired of working on it. It included a built-in talking timer. So in Halo 1, all of the power-ups are on a timer. And so what high-level players would do is they would, start a timer, like a kitchen timer at the beginning of a game, and that would tell them, when the camo's coming up, when the sniper's coming up, all these weapons and power-ups. And so, but it, it's just kind of a pain in the ass to have a kitchen timer, these little watch batteries, and, you're at a loud event and, maybe your timer doesn't start, so you're kind of at a disadvantage throughout the entire game. Yeah. So Halo 1 Final included a talking timer built into the game. But even then, players were still using kitchen timers sometimes because, certain power-ups, for example, in Hang 'em High, the top power-up comes up every 3 minutes. And so you might have a talking timer that's giving you sort of like the 60-second countdown, but it's not telling you like the 3-minute power-up. And so in a subsequent version, they included an actual timer that's on screen. And I think even MCC has that. Has adopted that feature as well. But the NHE reference that you mentioned is sort of one of the most recent features. And so what we've done is basically taken away the advantage of host. And so a third Xbox serves as like a local dedicated server. Awesome. And both teams basically play off host.
Okay.
It's a little controversial,
Apparently it adds a little bit of lag or something, I think you said?
Yeah, right. I mean, I think it's generally understood to be a little laggier than off host normally would be. But okay. I'm sort of heavily in the camp of in favor of NHE. I think it's a great improvement because even if it's a little laggier for me, I'm not playing against somebody with no lag. You know what I mean? So it's even. And so even though you don't have that, not hosting, and it just feels so great to host in Halo 1, I mean, it's just so perfect. And but at the same time, the fairness of NHE, I think, is a huge benefit. But also, within those NHE versions that have been released, they had the training mode, so all the power-ups, all the spawns are indicated, all the power-ups, nav points. They include the on-screen timer, like I mentioned before. They also introduced a really cool thing called bots. So on Prisoner, they basically have two Master Chiefs running around, and they kind of use like the campaign elites.
Really?
Yeah. So it's basically they have these enemies that will fight you. So even if you're at your house and there's no one there, you can play a multiplayer map against other Master Chiefs that are shooting you back, and you can change the difficulty. And it's actually, it's not just like kind of a quirky thing. It's really been
that's incredible.
Helped me get better. So like I'll play the bots on easy, so they're kind of moving but they're not really shooting you back too much. And I just work on my no scopes, and so I think my snipe got a lot better playing the bots and working on my melees. I'm in the same way that I'm known as one of the better players, and I'm known as really good at like grenade tricks and stuff. I'm also known as having a terrible double melee, and so the bots helped me with my double melee for sure.
Yeah. It's crazy that we still don't have any form of bots to play against through every single Halo iteration. I feel like that's something that people have wanted forever. Like the moment I get something like a target that moves that I can shoot at for hours, like just put me in a basement and I'm gone. Like I'll just do that, because I'm the type of guy who's like, I'm playing Halo 5. I'll constantly jump into the custom browser Octagon so I can get somebody who jumps in and I can practice my shot against that person. That's the closest you get to a bot, right? So it's crazy that people are modding it into Halo 1. We still don't have it today. Maybe they should take the hint and start adding bots to their games.
It's awesome, I'm surprised to hear that y'all don't have it, because it's something that we're able to do. Sort of, basically what we're doing is sort of reverse engineering the game in a lot of ways. And so, we've been trying to get the source code. So what we really want from 343, who's sort of in charge of this Halo franchise, is to get the Halo 1 source code. So we've been sort of, I don't have the technical expertise to really explain it, but we've sort of been fumbling around in the dark, sort of trying to reverse engineer this game. But, there's a lot more we could do, and that we could do things a lot more efficiently with source code. So, most of in all my recent conversations with 343, I'm just in their ear about that source code. That source code. So most recently they told me, it's off the table, never going to happen, give it up. But we're just keep on harassing them about it
until maybe.
Well, there's just all the, when they released MCC, which is their sort of the most significant effort that they've done towards sort of anything Halo 1 related, I'd say.
Right.
They didn't use the OG source code. They used basically PC source code, and so they have this intellectual property that they're not commercializing, they're not using it, and yet they're sort of hoarding it. And there's a lot we could do with it. Why not give it to us and let us improve the game in a way that they could get some benefit from, as far as like goodwill in the community. There's a ton of examples. I think Quake 1, Quake 2, Quake 3, all those games have had the source code released, once the game had been out for a pretty good while. But so far they've been pretty much unwilling to do it. There's as sort of a parallel to getting the source code. There's two projects I want to plug. There's two different Xbox emulation projects that are ongoing. So Jay Fox Rocks has a Patreon, and he's basically emulating the Xbox. So what that would basically allow us to do is port off of this old antiquated hardware, and these old CRTs, and be able to play, on a nice BenQ monitor,
proper monitor,
60 frames a second. There's a guy named Matt Bergerson as well, who's working sort of parallel on a lot of the same things to get us off this old hardware. And again, these people are having to go through all this extra trouble without the source code. And if we had the source code, we could do a lot more.
Definitely.
And we could do it a lot more efficiently.
So first off, release the source code, but also I wanted to kind of go back and just preface this for people who don't have the information on this. Is you guys are making all these amazing iterations to try to get the game to where you want it to be, and the source code would be the real way for you to get there. But the reason why a lot of this is happening is also because MCC's Halo CE just kind of wasn't up to snuff. It seems like out of the whole collection, Halo CE really got the boot. In terms of like the quality. So apparently what they did is it's not the original Xbox, like the Xbox original Halo CE. It's the PC version of Halo CE. And back when this game was ported to PC, apparently there were a number of mistakes in the process. And that video that we just had rolling, you can feel free to roll that again in the background. But it seems like at first glance, there was a graphical and technical downgrade when they made the port over to PC. So there was texture filtering was worse. Decal systems were broken and blood looked less pronounced. There were abnormal AI issues, something called bump mapping as well. And bump mapping is apparently a technique that gives flat textures an illusion of depth, and something that I've timestamped at 149 if you're able to skip through there, John. But basically you're getting a muddier looking game with less texture. On top of the fact that something called transparent shaders were completely ignored as well. So your windows and your jackal shields, anything that has transparency, and this is bump mapping right here, so you can see a difference in just a flat surface looking, more textured versus one that isn't. And in Halo PC, the PC version, none of these surfaces have texture unless you point a flashlight at them, as opposed to the original Xbox version where you've got all this texture. So this is kind of just like the tip of the iceberg, though, because apparently a number of multiplayer specific features were kind of foregone as well. And you have a whole list here that we could read through, I guess, of just all of this stuff that got changed, apparently. So like you said, you played it the first day with Legend and never since. There were obnoxious noises, like Master Chief was wearing squeaky rubber gloves. What was that about?
Yeah, I mean, the proof's in the pudding at the end of the day. I mean, you seem to have done some research on sort of why the problems and where it came from and et cetera. But at the end of the day, a lot of kids that will come, my locals, invariably after they land the original game, they say, I'm not playing MCC ever again. Like I just can't go back to it. And so, the product just really isn't there. And so, so like when we first played on the first day it came out, there was like this weird gong noise that would happen anytime that you hurt the other team. So I mean, if you threw a nade across the whole map and it like hit somebody, it would go dong, and like so you just have this like weird confirmation anytime that you like did damage,
like a hit marker.
Yeah, it was just strange. And just like you pick up like a rocket and you reload it, it's like just all these extra noises in the game that are just very obnoxious. But the players that I know that are desperate enough to still play MCC, they're invariably complaining about the consistency of shot registration. That
right, that's huge.
People are just eating bullets, but it seems like you're hitting, but you're not hitting. And players that have a really laggy connection somehow have like an advantage where they're not. Traditionally they would, if you had a laggy connection, you'd be at a big disadvantage. But somehow it's like inverted for Halo.
Oh yeah.
Where if you're host, you're sort of can't hit anybody, and the laggy players can't miss.
Wow.
So there's almost like an overcompensation there. I don't really have a great sense of it, but people aren't playing MCC unless they're really passionate about Halo 1 and can't land and play. So it just seems like a bad look where the people without the source code and without the resources of Microsoft, this big top 10 company in the world, we're putting out a better product that people want to play more. And it's just kind of a bad look. It doesn't really seem like it's much of a priority for them to fix it. I remember for a long time, and a lot of truthfully, a lot of these issues, have been fixed. But I mean, for a long time on MCC, it was like the camo was a disadvantage. You're almost like a bright beacon instead of
Wow.
being really camoed in a proper way. But it seems like a lot of desyncs where you'll see the camo fall down on Damnation on one side, but it's actually you go to pick it up and it's not really there because it's actually on the other where it originally was.
Right. Yeah. So I see like player camo state desyncs, physics desyncs. There's like slow moving projectile weapons like plasma rifle, plasma pistol, needler, rocket launcher don't seem to have their projectile and impact effects synced, which sounds confusing. Just a whole number of things. In case you guys are wondering why it's the PC version that got ported to MCC and not the original version, it's specifically because the PC version was the only version to include matchmaking, multiplayer matchmaking support, and they wanted to have that going onwards in MCC, so they grabbed the PC version, but in doing so, grabbed the version with all of these inconsistencies and issues, it seems, which is unfortunate.
My understanding is a little different, and there may be multiple reasons, but
okay.
In Halo 1 OG, you have an actual projectile. So when you shoot a pistol out, it's actually sending out a bullet, and so you have to lead your shots. Whereas in subsequent games, they have hit scan where
minus Halo 3
kind of teleports your shot over to wherever you're aiming. And so my understanding was that the Halo PC version was much more superior to be playing online as far as having less data to be concerned about. But one of the things that would have been nice that they could have done for the Halo 1, the OG community, would just to have us have OG available. So maybe it's not great for online, but you could have just had it on there so we could play it on LAN. And so if they did that, we could be playing on an Xbox One instead of an Xbox that was made in 2001. You know what I mean? Like, think about how many computers you've had since 2001. You know what I mean?
Dude, don't even get me started.
The hardware is trash, and that's what we're stuck with. And it's just kind of unnecessary. So you couldn't play Halo 1 on even the Xbox 360. And so it's just kind of ridiculous that we're having to, there's not been any attempt really from the powers that be to, enable this sort of franchise game to be played in subsequent renditions of the Xbox.
Yeah. And I mean, even on the 360, they had the anniversary, but the anniversary had Halo Reach's multiplayer. It didn't have CE's multiplayer, right?
Yeah. So I mean, people invariably, it's like, hey, McDick, you're a Halo player. Like, are you excited about Halo 3 or whatever the newest thing is? And invariably, it's just a letdown. So there was Halo 2 with tons of issues, and Halo 3, and they did the anniversary edition. So in 2014, Halo had been out for 10 years, so they were gonna, what it was sort of billed as is, we're gonna have Halo CE, but it's gonna be 60 frames a second. You're gonna be able to play online. But then it was just like Halo 1, like Halo 1 inspired maps with a reach,
right?
And then you only play like the Halo 1 campaign. It was just like nobody that's still playing Halo 1 wants to do any of those things. And so just kind of a slap in the face. And then you play MCC, and it was like a beta version. Nothing that any serious Halo 1 player would be interested in playing.
Right.
They haven't improved it, but it's still pretty far from what you want to play. And again, I mean, it seems like they could have easily made it so that we could at least play Halo 1 in its OG form on LAN using, I mean, I'm not saying we're a huge community, but I would have bought an Xbox One if I could play Halo 1 on it, And if I bought an Xbox One, I'd probably buy, Halo 4 and see if it's any good, right?
Don't get Halo 4. Get Halo.
I mean, I'm just saying, when I know I can't play the game that I'm interested in playing on the subsequent thing, which is just, it seems like they could have easily What do you got here? Legend, Skills versus McDick and Jones. Okay.
Yeah, that we were actually supposed to talk about in a little bit, but this is just going apparently. We're watching this whole thing here. This is the one that you won, I believe.
Yeah, so that was I completely expected to win, and those kids were outclassed at every
Oh my.
way. No, so Legend and Patch are sort of this juggernaut team, sort of the best two players that are still playing team up. And honestly, I've always kind of give them shit for kind of being like the Kevin Durant's of the Halo world and not looking for competition, just sort of wanting easy wins. But we actually were able to upset them last year, which perversely kind of proves that maybe it was okay for them to team. But yeah, they'd probably beat us 90% of series, but we kind of strung together 2 series wins to knock them off last year.
Right, and I know Legend is one of these 4 horsemen, supposedly. Who are the 4 horsemen? Is this something that still exists today, or?
To a lesser extent. So basically, there was just sort of a recognition of the fact that there was 4 players in the Halo 1 community that were sort of head and shoulders above, everybody else. And so Legend, Ogre 2, Skills, and a player named Harris were considered the 4 horsemen. Ogre 2 doesn't really play much anymore, and I think Harris has somewhat retired and is playing other games as well. So, right now it's really only Legend and Patch, or Legend and Skills, that are the current horsemen that are playing, and
right,
because they're cowards, they team together.
Now, Ogre 2, you said he doesn't play that much anymore. I know he's still exceptional. If he was to jump back on right now, I'm not sure who is, like maybe Ogre 1, but I know Ogre 1's been out of it for so long. How do you think he'd fare, though, if he was to go up against somebody like Legend and Skills? These guys, like, clearly the top of their game at this point, or is Ogre 2 still so good that he could come back and wreck shop?
It's a great question. So, I landed with Legend recently, and if y'all look up his stream, I mean, he streamed it, and you can watch a rebroadcast. Even just some of the clips that were clipped out of that stream, he's a freak, and he just hits shots that are just he shouldn't hit, and they're just so frustrating. That it's just like a 1 in a million thing that he does just regularly. But I gotta give the edge to Ogre 2. So I think he's the best all-around player, and he kind of came back and did this not too long ago. So at BeachLAN 3, Ogre 2 came, and he wasn't quite up to Legends level initially, but I would say by the end of the LAN, he was clearly superior. And I think the difference there is he's just kind of a better teammate. Legend kind of plays sort of a selfish way, but he just showed such a great shot. But I think Ogre 2 really makes his teammate better and is a good communicator. And I'd give the edge to Ogre 2 for sure.
Pretty incredible that he can, step away from it, jump to other games, come back, and still be as good as he is. And I guess, that's the thing, too, is just understanding the game so intimately that it's not just about you. It's about how you, also work with that teammate and level that teammate up, too. Like, they make the teammate a better player by playing efficiently with them. So that's a really interesting dynamic.
Yeah, but, and more so than other Halos, in Halo 1, you really can kind of have one player go off and dominate. And so, but at a high level, when you have all good players and you have someone like Tom who's able to make people a little better and communicate and make sure everyone has the same information, I think I'd have to give him the edge over Legend.
Yeah. Damn. Well, as far as Halo goes, I mean, you said the big thing for this community is somehow getting the source code. And if they're able to do that, you have a whole list of upgrades that we could see if we could just get access to this. I think that would be the one great, I don't think it would require too much effort on the side of 343 to get a hold of this. But you're saying if that can happen, we're looking at things like creating more detailed Carnage reports with additional statistics, playing in 720p instead of 480p, which is nice. You've got NHE on a true dedicated server or what's a headless server? What's that?
Yeah, I'm not the nerd to tell you that, but
okay.
basically kind of what we have done. I have a sort of a layman's understanding of it, but I mean, basically on the version of NHE that we have, there's like a host man who's actually on one team, but they have it programmed where he actually spawns in some faraway location, not on the actual map where you can really see him. Mm-hmm. And so, a true headless server would be one where the dedicated, the third Xbox is not actually in the game in a way that, in this artificial way, we've had to mod the maps to put him on the map somewhere.
Oh.
Game. Okay. Do you kind of understand what I'm saying there? It's
right. So you're saying what the current iteration is that third Xbox, that player is still somehow in the map in the game?
Right. He's just like way above everything,
Oh, okay.
Sky. And so a headless server would be one where he's, not actually in the game, but is actually just, hosting the game remotely, so to speak.
And then we also have modify the assist statistic, which has some bizarre features, apparently. What's wrong with it right now?
Well, back it up a little bit. So, like, in the Carnage Report thing that you mentioned,
right.
Halo 1 Carnage Report only has kills, deaths, and assists and points. So if you got it would tell you if you got, 27 kills, but if you suicide, once you have -1 total score or whatever. So it's very, whereas in subsequent Halos, it'd be like shots hit, shots taken,
right, damage dealt and stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. So that would be neat to have. So the assist is just like insane in Halo 1. You would think basically if you shot somebody and didn't get the kill that you would get an assist. But it's very bizarre, and someone's made a chart somewhere. I'm sure we could find a nice chart. But it's like if you shoot someone once with a snipe, you don't get it. But if you shoot them, you do even more damage with a pistol. Like you do or don't get it. Like it's just kind of like a random set of. There's no rhyme or reason as to when you would get an assist in Halo 1 versus when you wouldn't, and it's just. I don't know what the underlying theme was, but it's very counterintuitive.
Yeah, sounds super weird. I'm not sure. Prioritize frag grenades over plasma grenades on spawn as well. So how does this work exactly?
So frag grenades are super
important, I guess.
Almost like power weapons in Halo 1. Like they're one of the worst sins that you can commit in Halo 1 is dying without throwing your nades. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're just super, useful. Whereas plasma nades are terrible. They're just like a waste of time, pretty much. They're easy to avoid. They're loud. Like that, you can see them being thrown across the map.
Right. They're massive. Yeah.
It's hard to stick people anyway, so it's really not very useful. But for whatever reason, in Halo 1, if you spawn on plasma nades, it automatically switches to plasma nades. So it makes that it goes to those first. So you spawn, and now you go to throw a nade. It's like a goddamn plasma,
right?
Like
screws up
Bungie,
We still call it Bungie, yeah. Back in the day, man. So I mean, it's crazy how that's one of the things that we want to change with the source code. And in any other Halo game, that's just like a switch. It's like, do we want plasma grenades at all? Just switch it. Damn, dude. There's a so-called 180 glitch where shots drastically lag. What's that? How could we remove that?
Like in Halo 1, if you just jump and turn, and you're looking at where you want to be shooting, but it'll take your shot almost a full second to catch up. Even especially if you're jumping with a rocket, and then you really have to wait almost like a full one Mississippi beat before you can actually get a straight shot. And so you would think I would like to see it where as soon as you can see your shots are true to where you're actually looking.
Just be aligned with the reticle, I guess.
Right.
Where your reticle is where the shot should go. Yeah.
Right.
And then make game types with more than 2 teams. And this is the thing about it being an afterthought. This is where you really start to recognize it, where it's like little things like this that just don't exist. Enable us eventually port onto different hardware as Xbox is no longer in production. Yep. And then any number of miscellaneous fixes, modifications, tweaks. So all of these things would be great to see for Halo 1. And of course, there's still a community here. You guys are still competing. You got your BeachLANs on a regular basis. And a good, proof of that fact is recently you were part of the HCS grassroots program. So, I mean, congratulations on that. I know there was a post on Twitter that we might be able to throw up as well. How has that been going so far? Tell me a bit about that experience.
You know, it's been I'm a little ambivalent on it, to be honest. So, you know, on the one hand, we've never had the community at large kind of feels like we've been sort of this redheaded stepchild in the Halo, you know, as far as how 343 prioritizes or really cares about Halo 1. And so to have any kind of recognition and support is really, you know, incredible. And we are, you know, very appreciative. You know, even before this grassroots, they were putting us BeachLAN articles. They you know, had us at the like I said, the Daytona event. They've tweeted our stream. They've hosted our stream and stuff like that. So we've appreciated their sort of support. But at the same time, you know, I would say a lot of people were really expecting that when we qualified for HCS, that there would be some tournament money coming towards the prize pool contribution. And, you know, really what they're offering us is, you know, what they're calling social media support. And so for certain people, they felt like that's, you know, inadequate. And, you know, I don't know. I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful that it's more of a stepping stone, you know.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, you know, where exactly we'll be in the future, but you know, I wouldn't say we're really satisfied with what we're getting. But I mean, I'm really hopeful that it's just sort of a step. And so, you know, you hate to kind of criticize them when you're getting sort of unprecedented support for the first time.
Right.
But at the same time, we're not really where we want to be at the end of the day.
Right. It makes sense. I mean, acknowledgement is a good thing, but if you guys want to actually succeed and grow as a community, it would be helpful to have bigger events and prize pools and incentive to be a part of the community. So yeah, hopefully that does become a thing. Social media can be helpful too, but I mean, but in the end of the day, hopefully that's a stepping stone that leads to bigger things.
Yeah, so like the BeachLAN is sort of at capacity, you know, before without any kind of external support, you know, we're basically a smaller, I mean, we're the big current event, but it's also, you know, doesn't have a lot of room for growth in its current, you know, it's just sort of like at a house, you know. We cram in 70 people in a house, but it's not really like we could fit any more people. If, you know, 100 more people wanted to come, they can't come. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's great to popularize sort of the Halo 1 scene and things like the UGC putting on a retro, you know, tournament for Halo 1 in St. Louis, and there's going to be another one in Atlantic City. That's really where I think there's a lot of room for growth is you know, you know, we want to get national, you know, MLG sort of style tournaments happening, and you know, obviously we want to get the prize pools up a little bit, but to see that stuff happening, I think is really neat, and that's really where, you know, I think the Halo 1 scene can really grow.
Definitely. I'm assuming you're going to be at the next Halo Classic.
Yeah, I plan on being there. My wife is trying to get me to go to Iceland for her birthday, and I think I'll do that as well. But if I can work around that, then I'll 100% be there. But I know, you know, even if I'm not there, I'm sure there'll be a lot of the Halo 1 community will be there representing. It was sort of unfortunate last time where they scheduled or like when they announced the St. Louis event, it was actually in conflict with another big Halo 1 LAN that was happening.
Oh no.
And had been planned for months, so we didn't really have the showing that we would like to have had. But so this one, there's not going to be any conflict, so I'm expecting a big turnout for the Halo 1 community.
Nice. So I guess if you do make it, are you in it to win it? Are you gonna win this one?
Yeah, I think Legend and Patch, you know, will always be sort of a significant favorite, but I mean, I think my partner and I are close enough that if some things sort of the ball bounces in our favor,
Eat the right food that morning and
right. Really sabotage them is what we
sabotage them. Okay. Right. Awesome. Well, hopefully I get to see you there. I know you got a lot you're juggling, but I will definitely be there, and I'm excited to see the Halo 1 stuff. Now that I have a bit more knowledge on it, too, I kind of know what to look for, too, which is pretty great. But I want to see what the chat thinks as well. We got a bunch of questions here coming in from the chat. Guys, if you have any questions you'd like to ask McDick, feel free to let us know in the chat, and we'll start answering them. The first one from Dino Mike Mora. McDick, who do you think the top 5 best Halo 1 players are, not including yourself?
Well, Legend, Patch, Ogre 2, Harris. I mean, I think you still got to say those guys. Some people would say Ogre 2 isn't really playing anymore and Harris isn't really playing anymore. But, I mean, those guys aren't going to come back and be rusty, right? I mean, like, they might be rusty, but they're still going to be better than most people. Most people would probably put me next. So if you didn't put me next, you'd have to put some combination of Nistic, Shade, Jones, Your Dog, some combination of those guys. I'd probably say, all things being equal with practice, probably Shade and Nistic would top that group out.
All right, there you have it. He totally wants to put himself in there, but he goes for for Shade and Nistic. Just kidding. We've got Callus, who says, many players who competed in Halo CE feel that Halo CE is the best Halo or the only true Halo, a flawless Halo even. I'm curious to know if you could change anything about CE, what would you change and why?
Yeah, there are sort of purists out there that, don't want to change things about Halo and Halo 1, and I'm certainly not in that group. So like I said before, we've done a lot of mods to the game. We're not playing on discs anymore. The talking timer in the game is, awesome. The on-screen timer is awesome. Some of the new maps like Downrush has really become sort of a canon map to most people. It's not just sort of played by, it's sort of generally accepted as like a normal, standard map that you would play.
Right.
But as far as changes that haven't been made that could be made, I mean, the sort of gold, the sort of ultimate thing that you'd want to have is both teams being on host. So NHG with having it being equal and playing on a neutral host, that's really awesome, and I'm a big supporter of it. But both teams kind of being even laggier than off host is less than desirable. So if you could get both teams on host, that would be sort of the holy grail.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not really that you want to change anything about the game itself specifically, really just kind of the stuff that hinders the true game experience, like being able to have a proper host versus host type experience where it's, very low latency and it feels the best to play on. But the game itself, I guess you wouldn't take anything out, add anything to it, or?
No, I mean, I'm not trying to get a bubble shield or sprint or get things in there. It'd be more just sort of like you said, optimizing sort of what is there and getting rid of sort of glitches that shouldn't be there, that aren't really helping anything.
Fair. Dino Mike Mora again. Who are your top 5 teammates, and who won the first ever BeachLAN?
So the first ever BeachLAN tournament winner was Legend, and he was teaming with a player who is known as J-Rep.
Okay.
His name was Reptile, but he put it was like a J with a 2, sort of a stylistic R, but now he's known as J-Rep. But J-Rep and Legend beat Skills and Hallister in the finals of the first tournament. That was BeachLAN 4. It was a random tiered tournament. So what we did was we split everybody up into 4 tiers, and we tiered ones with 4s and 2s with 3s.
Okay.
And so Legend and Patch beat Skills and Hallister in that one. Top 5 teammates, I'd say Ogre 2, number 1. Skills, number 2. Fat Bastard, who's my old partner, number 3. I like teaming with Words a lot. 4, and then I dethroned the goats with Jones, so I got to put Jones in
Nice. Awesome. I'm Murph Masta says, what's the single nerdiest play you've ever seen? And how can we watch it right now? I want to see it. Damn.
We'll have a clip. We'll put it a clip, but I do a Finney calls it the play, but it's just a real nerdy thing on Hang 'em High where I go up against the back wall and I can nade the top power up down into the pit, and on the way I nade the rockets. So then as I'm jumping into the pit, I actually catch the rockets, and it's just kind of like a real nerdy thing where you're taking like the worst part of the map essentially, and then all of a sudden you have all the power ups. And so, if you can catch, if you can do it well, it's pretty, it's just a huge swing in the game. And I'm sure we can get a clip of that somewhere to link for you guys.
And that would be awesome if we could somehow grab it. But you're saying, so you're jumping right to the center of Hang 'em High. If you can get it done, though, this is like an optimal play to go for. You're grabbing the rockets and the power up at the same time.
Yeah, so you're going on the back wall of Hang 'em High. You're nading the top power up into the pit by Red Pistol. And, you're nading the rockets on the way. So you kind of just, fall into the pit and get at everything at once. But everything has a time and a place. And it's a risky play. If you die on the way, then all of a sudden you've naded the top power up down to the other team. But, if your partner is being, a bugaboo and kind of distracting, then it can work out a good percentage of the time.
Yeah. All right. David Sandman says, are you attending AC and who will you be teaming with? So you kind of already answered. Do you actually have a teammate that if you do make it, do you know who you'll be teaming with?
Nothing's set in stone, but I mean, sort of the default teammate that I would have would be Jones, who we won the BeachLAN last year. I'm going to do everything I can to get there, and in all likelihood, I'll be teaming with Jones.
Awesome. LMEG_XO says, what are some resources that new players can use to learn the game and connect with other players? Good question.
That is a good question. So Meg is our Halo, our lone Halo 1. Well, not lone, but she's, one of the only girls that are playing, and she's actually a very good player. So she's sort of an outlier there. But there's a website called Halo1Hub.com, and so there's a lot of interesting features there. But one of the most interesting features is what I would call the Halo Finder app. So or a Player Finder. I'm not sure what exactly it's called.
Sure.
But basically, you can go on there and you can make an account and put in your zip code, and there's just a map and it has all these other players, and then so you can message the other players and say, "Hey,
sketchy." But yeah.
I mean, maybe, So
who would go out of their way to be on Halo Finder unless people want to play Halo? I guess you wouldn't get too many.
Yeah, and I mean, it's in this day and age with Tinder and all these crazy kids
and the horror stories that come with those apps too. But yeah,
but no, that player app I think is going to be John the Hero is sort of our community member who put that together, and I think there's some Halo players that I've seen on there near me that I plan on contacting and that just aren't really on my radar, but they're within an hour's drive of me. So they're in the community enough to be aware of that website and make an account and put in their information, and it's a great way for people to find players and to be found.
Right.
I would encourage everyone who likes Halo 1 to go on there and make an account and meet some people.
And I mean, with MCC PC coming out, there's going to be a huge audience exposed to all the Halo games. I know it's kind of like the wrong version of Halo CE, but could that be some kind of a positive window into the community and growing it that route, do you think, in any way?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's an opportunity, right? But I don't want to be super negative or anything, but I mean,
Sure.
if you look at how it's gone for us in the past with all these other games and Anniversary and MCC and whatnot, I mean, I'm not expecting them to make the Halo 1 something that I would want to play over the LAN edition that we're currently playing.
Right.
If they did it right, if they listened to the Halo 1 community and did the things that the competitive scene is doing and emulated really our modded version of the game, yeah, it could be great. I don't enjoy playing on an old dusty Xbox, but it's what I'm with because the alternative is not as good.
Right. Well, hopefully some sort of change can be made there. Mr. Wubby, why did they call Jones? Sorry, the Loch Ness Monster. I probably said his name wrong there. Why do they call him the Loch Ness Monster?
The Wubby is a Halo player named Mighty.
Okay.
He famously talked Zyos into chopping the pot in a tournament where Zyos was a heavy favorite to win the free for all.
Okay.
But he's taught so Jones is my partner, and he's become pretty famous for on Damnation. He just sits in the pit, so it's pretty much considered one of the worst places to be in the map.
Right.
But he has a crazy like a fox strategy where he basically just hangs out in the pit, and sometimes it's frustrating to team with him when he's doing that, but when the camo gets blown down, it goes into the pit, so he's there waiting on it. And that's sort of the basis of his strategy. But yeah, so he gets a lot of shit for being in the pit when he shouldn't be in the pit.
And then they call him the Loch Ness Monster because of that?
I don't know if anyone's ever called him besides Mighty right now in this question.
Oh, yeah?
He does have a that's whenever they talk about Jones, it's often about him being in the pit, and they'll have memes of him with like a little like a bum's like tent set up in the
Just camping down there
in the pit.
Yeah. So I believe this is our last question. Dino Mike Mora says, do you see the general Halo 1 crowd? Do you see the general Halo 1 crowd is getting better, or is the competition about the same? So I guess this is in terms of skill of the player base.
Yeah, and I'm going to kind of answer it a little more broadly than that, which is to say that traditionally, when I started playing and getting to know people, the Halo 1 crowd was a very toxic group. And I even sort of just generally the Halo community, maybe even Halo 2, Halo 3 players were kind of considered pretty toxic. And, I think a lot of the more competitive players kind of felt like, if I talk shit to everyone, then they'll want to play and beat me, and kind of they think that they're elevating everyone to be more motivated to be competitive. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of people are just turned off by that. A lot of people get their feelings. Some top player talking shit to you. Some percentage of people just never come back. So we really changed and improved that a lot. And so our best players, I think, understand more than ever the importance of growing the community, of encouraging new players.
Right.
And it's really been largely an effort by a product of the contributions that new players have made. So BeachLAN 5, HCS came and was a commentator.
Nice.
HCS, to me, as a Halo 1 guy who hadn't watched Halo 2 and Halo 3, it blew me away that someone would want to come and just talk about me playing a game. And it never occurred to me that someone would want to do that. And so HCS added so much value to our stream with the commentary, and Nighty Night is a sort of a staple commentary.
Nighty Night?
Yeah, Nighty Night comes,
awesome.
and he commentated BeachLAN 6 and BeachLAN 7, and he's great. And so you have some of these, Hurley who designed our BeachLAN logo. And all these guys who were kind of newer to the community, but they're making these huge contributions. And so You have this year we have Sandman coming, who's never been. He's a photographer for people who don't know, and he does a lot of great work.
Amazing stuff. Yeah.
He's hooked us up with a guy named Mr. Archaeos, who's like the filmmaker version of Sandman.
Okay.
So he's coming to do a bunch of our videography stuff. And so when you have those new people who are making such huge contributions to this game that we love and the scene that we're in, it's hard to debate any longer. Is it worthwhile to be nice to new people and encourage new people to come? It's pretty much everyone agrees. So the community has largely, BeachLAN is largely about getting new people to come. Statistically, about a third of the players that come to BeachLAN each year are new players who have never been to a BeachLAN before.
Nice.
But sort of to get to really what he was asking, I do think players are getting better. I think the meta is evolving. I think it would be better under neutral hosts. I think on and off kind of creates perverse incentives where people play. It's harder to. It's very when you're on host, you can just play very aggressive and very rushy, and it's hard to turn that off when you go back to off host. And so I think the average player would adopt the meta better, and the meta would develop better if everyone was playing a consistent game, in NHE. But I think overall, I think people are getting better for sure.
Yeah. I do think that was a really great point that you raised about casters and other personalities, like you're having a videographer coming in, David Sandman. These are all great people that help, grow the scene in a beautiful way and expose people to the game who might not know about it. And I thought it was so cool having Gandhi come back and cast the last Halo Classic, right? So doing more of that, especially with the next Halo Classic coming up, getting good personalities, casters to really kind of showcase why the game is so special and interesting. That's how you get new players. That's how you get new people, coming back and getting excited about it. So hopefully you get a lot more of that. You get more people coming into the Beachlands and doing a little casting there, because I was watching some of the Beachland, and it is just strictly gameplay from what I could see. And I think casting would definitely help the experience and the viewership.
Yeah, so in years past, we would just have a stream. Any jerk could sit down and, streams watching this kid play for 8 hours. But this year, we're going to have a much more regimented schedule.
Awesome.
And, there's going to be, we have specific like money matches set up on certain days. I'll get you guys the schedule to publish. But there's going to be a tournament on Monday and Tuesday. But then each night there's going to be kind of like a fight card where one set of teams is going to play at a certain time, and then sort of games would theoretically get more competitive during the night, and so people will be able to tune into the games that they want to see, and there's going to be interviews leading up to it, and a lot more production and stuff that we haven't really done in the past.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I mean, it's great to see that that's happening. And of course, with the HCS Grassroots partnership and this initiative, hopefully that continues to grow and evolve. You have more events, and then at some point, hopefully there's prize pool money, and, we can continue to grow this as well. But that's all the questions I have. So thank you so much. And thank you, chat, for providing your questions as well. As far as if you're a new classic Halo fan, you want to get into Halo 1, where would you say they start? I guess maybe just go to your Twitter, or do you have any recommendations on what they should do?
Yes, so the Halo1Hub.com is a great place to start, especially with the Multiplier Halo Finder app. People are welcome to reach out to me. A lot of
on your brand new Twitter account.
BeachLAN, beach-land.com is our website. And
nice. Okay.
On Twitter, I'm the BeachLAN. Pretty easy to find. So, if anybody can get to me, then I can help you get to, Halo players in your area. I keep a database, sort of a spreadsheet of, Halo players. So, if you're in Wyoming, I can try to help you find someone in your area who plays.
Man, well, I love the passion for the game, and it's so cool to see just these individual communities for every Halo. Like every single title is special for its own reasons and different for its own reasons. And while that kind of divides us, it's also a very exciting and interesting thing too, just to kind of experience. So thank you so much for joining me on today's chat.
Thanks for having me. You've had some great guests on here, Walshy, and I'm Ryan Noob. I don't think I'm in those categories, but I really appreciate the attention and the platform to talk about what we're doing and what we are passionate about.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely learned a lot more though, because I didn't know anything about Halo C or much about it coming into this. So I'd say it's very informative for me. So thank you, man, for joining me.
Yep. All right. Thank you so much, guys.
No problem. See you around. All right. And that closes today's interview. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. And I know we also have our HCS Grassroots giveaway. A lot of you guys in the chat waiting for that. You type !Grassroots in the chat for your chance to win the BR skin and nameplate. We'll find out who the winner is in just a second. Hopefully this is going. Oh, they already have it. All right. Awesome. Thank you, Tony. Code winner is Claw Meh God. Claw MEH God. You have won the BR skin and nameplate giveaway. Congratulations, guys. That will end the show for today. Remember, we also have merch. You can feel free to check out that merch. Anything that you purchase, there it is. Anything you purchase here not only supports the show, it supports me as well. And one last little tidbit that I keep forgetting to do, I'm not sure if we have graphics for this yet, but we definitely should get them in the future, is that we are also available on Spotify, guys. We're on iTunes, we're on Google Play, so you can just listen to us on the go if you'd like. There's also hcsweekly.com where you can listen to the episodes there as well. This broadcast, once it's finished, it's going to go up on YouTube either later tonight or tomorrow morning. So many different places to enjoy HCS Weekly. We're here on a weekly basis. You can listen to us, you can watch us, all these great ways to be a part of it. So hopefully I can see you guys on one of those platforms in the future. And if not, I'll see you next week on twitch.tv. Have a good night.